Welcome to Paul's Heart. I'm Paul, author of the book Paul's Heart Life as a Dad and a 35-year cancer survivor, available on Amazon. I got a question across my news feed, which I really don't give a whole lot of thought to. Um, do I need to avoid my pets while recovering from open heart surgery? And I'm going to actually answer that question in two situations, not just heart surgery, but also in cancer therapy as well. First, you have to understand, I consider pets a huge source of comfort when going through something so stressful as heart surgery and cancer. In fact, we have something known as pet therapy or therapy dogs and things like that, where it's quite common to be in a chemotherapy suite and have somebody walking their dog through there with tails wagging and people getting to pet them. And what it does is just lifts up spirits and such an emotional boost to people to have that pleasant distraction. Um, I myself wrote about it twice in my book. I had a cat that supported me as I was going through my cancer treatments. And then, of course, my dog, 105-pound golden retriever, who was there for me when I had to recover from my open heart surgery that I had when I was 42. And it was a little different with him because obviously being so big, and I had played with him roughly constantly. And, when I'd come home from work, he would usually jump up on his hind legs and come at me, so planting me right in the chest. Um, After being away for a week in the hospital with that surgery, I was obviously nervous what he would be like once I walked through that front door. But I was really surprised when the door opened and he came walking towards me and looking at me, probably maybe with a little disdain, like, hey, where you been? But he circled around me and basically just stood by my side. He knew something wasn't right about me because I wasn't giving off my usual energy. So, but he would basically just hang by my side, whether I'm sitting on the couch, um, at the dinner table, walking. He was always there by my side. So, in general, from an emotional standpoint, do you have to avoid your pets, whether you're going through chemotherapy or recovering from any kind of heart surgery? No, no, you don't. Um, there are risks and precautions that you should be taking, and honestly, even if you're a healthy person, you should be aware of these things. I'll get the cats out of the way because they're fairly easy. You obviously want to avoid scratches and bites. Cats love to nip and they have claws. The claws, of course, are in that cat litter with their poop and their pee. So you don't want to get scratched and have skin open and risk getting any kind of bacteria that way. Same thing with the bites. The animals have saliva in their mouth, which has bacteria. And if they bite into your arm, you're going to have that bacteria travel through your bloodstream, and that can really complicate a lot of things. Of course, with cats, you also have cleaning the litter. And there's other bedding depending on what kind of animals you have, birds, ferrets, everything else like that. So, especially when it comes to cancer patients, you want to be careful. Wear a mask because of the dust. Perhaps maybe you want to wear an N95 mask when doing it, but these will help you deal with any kind of risks. Now, as far as dogs go, different story because they're bigger, they're stronger, and even some of the littler guys can have quite a bit of pull on them. So, the main thing when you're recovering from an open heart surgery, and I'm going to refer to that because you can have the transcath surgeries where they go up your leg and in your arm and whatever. You don't have to worry about that broken bone sternum healing. There are other issues that you have to be concerned about, like stress from strength of pulling and struggling. Um, but I'm going to talk in general from protecting the sternum. So you obviously want to prepare yourself not to be jumped on, pulling, like taking dog walks. I wasn't able to walk my Golden for quite a bit of time. He was a good boy, but he also had his instincts. And if he saw another dog or a rabbit, he was going to go, and I was going to have to drop the leash at that point. Also, you want to be careful that the dog doesn't knock you over, or if it's a little dog, tripping over it. There are other things such as lifting heavy bags of food. You're likely, if you've gone through heart surgery, you're likely to be restricted on weight limits. Another thing that you want to be prepared for is allergies. Okay, you don't want to be sneezing a lot when you've had this open wound on your chest. So that may be something to be prepared for. The emotional stress, it's for them. You know, they're dealing with somebody different than what they're normally seeing them react to. But eventually, it calms down. Other than that, you just take normal precautions. You make sure that you wash your hands, keep your mouth away. Again, the thing with the dogs, okay? Make sure their claws are sanded down, filed down, sanded down, however you do it. But especially the dew claw. That's one that often gets forgotten. The last thing you want is a scratch that gets infected. Also, same thing with the bites. You know, if you roughhouse with your dog with toys, pull toys, and stuff like that, you don't want them biting into your arm again with the saliva. Remember, dogs lick their butts. Okay? You don't need that in your bloodstream. Okay? Once you get bacteria in your bloodstream, that gets really bad. You usually end up with a trip to the emergency room being treated for an approaching sepsis storm. You don't want that when you're in the middle of your cancer treatments or recovering from your heart surgery. And again, whether you've had open heart surgery, that risk of infection is still legit, even with transcath surgeries. Like I've had a stent and I've also had my aortic valve replaced that way. You've still got to take the precautions when it comes to, infections. But do you need to avoid your pets? No, you don't. In fact, enjoy the warmth, the healing that they naturally give to you. Until next time, this is Paul's Heart.